Hello, my kindred friends. This is Christian from the design team. Today, we're going to make a project that came to be because I never have pens or paper inside my purse or inside my tote bag. So I thought, let's tap into some of the supplies we have to make a fully functioning notebook with something that we designed and we take credit for, and it's a little part of our being and it makes us happy. For this project, we'll be using the Sweets paper pack, the Burger Family Stamp Set, the Card Basic Dies, and I'm using some copy paper for this example. So let's take a look at the template that I'm going to be using. This is an example of a small notebook that we are going to use based off of the size of our paper pack, as well as scraps of paper. So let's go ahead and start with our paper. Because I want my paper to be directional, I'm going to be very intentional on where I'm placing my score lines. I want to have about a 1/4 inch in the center of my paper so that I will be able to have my inserts inside of there. So I will be making a score line at 2 7/8 and then again at 3 1/8. This will allow me to have that 1/4 inch in between. You'll see that I am pressing very gingerly on my scoreboard and then repeating that. I'm doing this because I'm not making my notebook cover out of heavy cardstock. I'm making it nice and thin because, again, this is a consumable. I want to be able to use this and be able to throw it away at the end. To ensure that I do not have any paper breaking on the back where the score line is when I fold this, you'll see that I'm working that very cautiously. I'm getting the bend to occur to really stretch those fibers and then enforcing it. This again will prevent me from having to put any other type of binding on the outside of my little notebook and still be able to have the color show through without having any of that breaking. If I wanted this notebook to last longer, I would have made it a lot different. I would make it so that it would be on a different thick cardstock base. I would ensure that there is fold over to protect my ledges of my paper, but I don't need that for this project. I set aside my little folder and now I'm going to talk about my paper inserts. I want my paper inserts to be a specific size inside of my notebook. And I'm doing this out of copy paper. You can use any type of paper that you would like. I just chose to demo it this way so that you can see the nice paper, not the scraps that I typically would throw into a notebook, but then also it gives you some clear definitions on where to cut. So my first cut is going to be just cutting my stacks of copy paper in half. So I'm cutting it at that 5.5 mark. For this project, I used approximately 10 sheets of copy paper. I did this so that I'll have 20 inserts inside of my packet. This is going to be dependent on how thick your notebook is and how big you want it, or how thick and dense your paper is. So this is not an exact science. Well, at least it's not for me because, I don't do math, so there's that. The next step that we're going to do is then cut at the 3.5 inch line. This is going to leave me with a 5 inch by 5.5 square. Well, ish, kind of square. Square-ish, 5.5. Well, you get the picture. You can go ahead and save these little pieces of paper. I use them for grocery list or making more little notebooks. So there's many different ways that you can still use up that paper that's left over. I repeated this cut line at that 3.5 on many pages. Don't be me and try to be an overachiever and try to cut more than you need at one time or that your cutter will accept, because you will end up with some blowout of the paper because the pressure from the guillotine coming down will shift it, or it won't cut as nicely and then you have some ragged edges. If that doesn't bother you, go for it. You be you. But for me, that was a little bit irritating, so I had to keep reminding myself to stop putting more in than it can accept. With all of my squares-ish cut out, it was now time to fold my paper in half. So when I'm looking at this, the height of my notebook is going to be 5.5. So I want to be able to have my paper be folded in half at that 2.5 inch line. I do not use my scoreboard for this because on a scoreboard, sometimes your paper can shift and then it will get a little bit wonky. So I just fold the piece of paper in half and burnish it nice and tight. I do this for all 20 of the pieces of paper. I do this separately so that they will then, when I lie them one inside the other, they will lie flat and it will help my notebook stay trim and nice and neat. As well, it will make it easier for me to poke my little holes that we need to do. Once I was happy with how my paper was lined up to ensure that it didn't have any pieces that were sticking out or not lined up appropriately, it was time to poke my holes. You can do this very scientifically. You can measure out exactly where you want your little holes to line up on. If you were so inclined, you'd put a dot in that 3-inch spot in the middle of your paper and then do an inch and a half on either side because we have our 6-inch side backing. I'm not scientific, so I just poke holes where it sounds like it should go. It'll be fine. It's a disposable notebook and it's made for me. That's all that matters. To ensure that my paper doesn't shift when I am making my notebook, I will use little binder clips to hold it in place. You do not need a tool to assist you for poking your little holes. Your little sharp pokey tool will work just fine. I am using a tool here to help me only because I have arthritis in my hands that does not allow me to always hold things to the strongest ability. And it is something that has helped me to be able to still create when my hands don't want to function. I go ahead and start putting my little holes in and then finish it by hand. You will see that this is not perfect. I have my 3 holes in the center and then I have 3 holes on the back. Do I care? No. This is a project for me. And letting go of that pressure of having it be absolutely perfect is one of the best therapeutic things you can do for yourself. If you wanted more perfection and were giving this for a true gift to someone, yes, you could use brads and you can make it so it's a much more sturdier object. But for me, this is perfect. I did pull out some embroidery floss and that will act as my binding. I'll go ahead and sew my binding shut. There are so many different ways that you can sew bindings on notebooks. I'm doing a quick and easy binding. I start in the center, I go up to the top. I come back down to the center. I go down to the bottom. I come back up to the center. I go back in at the top. I come all the way down to the bottom and come through the center again. I will then tie a square knot. A square knot is where you tie your knot, your first loop of your knot one way, and then you reverse it the other way. This makes a nice flat knot so that you don't have a big bulky center inside your notebook. My notebook is perfect for me. I folded it in half, it looks great, it's fine, it's all fine and dandy. But because I know some of you are perfectionists and would like to have one straight line so that your paper all looks the same, I'm just going to show you how you can do that. It involves getting out your craft knife and a mat to cut on and a straight ruler. You'll just go ahead and trim that down so that all your pages are all at the same length. When cutting through your pages, make sure you're doing nice light strokes. Don't press with all your might. You're going to end up shifting something or cutting your finger. So do nice little strikes, and amazingly, it just all comes off like that. I am giving you permission, though, to not do this. It's okay. It does not have to line up exactly for you to have a functioning notebook. Now that I have my notebook formed, I'm going to go ahead and put those binder clips back on it because now I need to have that muscle memory inside my notebook to keep it shut. So I'll go ahead and put some binder clips on the sides. I not only keep them on there for the immediate while I finish the rest of the notebook, but then also for a good 24 hours so that it has that seam ingrained so that my notebook isn't flailing open inside of my tote. So we're going to go ahead and start working on the inside of the card. I was having a little camera issues, and so now this is future me putting this back in here again. So I'm going to go ahead and take the character that I wanted to use out of this stamp set. I will stamp her in a alcohol safe ink because I'm going to do some simple alcohol coloring on her. And then I'm also going to show some masking because I want to have some words behind her that really spoke to me because I'm always looking for paper in my purse, and can I ever find it? No. So I'm going to put on the back in a nice pale pink so it kind of matches the color scheme of my paper. If you are new to masking, masking is just putting something over the top of your stamped image so that you can stamp something that surrounds that image or covers that image or goes through that image without actually doing it on the stamped image itself. It blocks it. When making a mask for this purpose, you need to ensure that your mask is very tight and on the line when you're cutting it out. You will go ahead and place it over the image that you are masking. And then you can see I'm coming in and I am just stamping away here, all scattered with the little pink words to say, uh. The mask was then removed and you can see there's no ink on her. So now I can go ahead and color her as I normally would. Depending on your masking paper, you'll be able to use masks over and over again. I colored the flesh of the character in my Olo markers, and then I transitioned to my Altenew artist markers. Depending on the type of marker that you use determines what technique you're going to use for coloring. With my Altenew markers, I have found that putting down my light color first and then coming back in with my dark color and then coming back in with my light color again, or a mid-tone if I throw one in there, this gives me the best color blend and striation that I look for in my coloring. The best way for you to know what works best for you is to just practice. Your eyes didn't go wonky there. I told you my camera was acting up and it did it again. It was so frustrating. So back to the past me, I cut out my image using the small circle from the Card Basic die set. I then cut out the larger circle in a pale pink. I didn't need to have this fit in there perfectly because this was going to hang off the edge of my notebook. I was giving a little design element with it. So to adhere my image to the backing or the mat, the pink mat, I used liquid glue and I made sure to smear that glue all the way out to the edges because I know that this is going into my bag and I am a bowl in a china shop. I'm not the most graceful thing in the entire world and I will be jamming my hand into my tote to get this dang notebook out, and I want to make sure that the image stays on there and I'm not peeling it off with my nail or whatever else I cram into my bag. At any point in time, you never know. After I have this all cleaned up and, oh, me all cleaned up because why not wipe the glue on your hand instead of on your little chamois? That would make sense, but why? Once I determined where I wanted her to sit on my notebook, I repeated the same process with the glue, ensuring that I had it from edge to edge because I wanted a nice, secure image. Did I learn my lesson about wiping the glue in my hand? No, I did it again. But now it was time to place my element onto my notebook, and this was bringing me joy. To finish my notebook, I trimmed off the little overhang. And now I had a project made for me, not for anyone else, but for me. I want you to give yourself freedom to make something for yourself that's disposable. This is consumable. It needs to be beat up and it needs to be battered and then you can throw it away. What a great way for you to enjoy your own creation when so many times we make stuff for other people and we don't get to enjoy it. Imagine how proud you'll be when you whip this out at your hairstylist or the grocery store and be like, I made this and I could put my little notes in here. And they're going to go goo goo gaga over it. Be proud of what you create, show it off, make something special for you. You are worth it. I can't wait to see what you come up with. And please share it over on our Facebook page for Kindred Stamps. Let us celebrate your joy with you. Until next time, my friends.